Chapter 9. The duo now becomes a crew. Our two newest allies led me and my sister through an alleyway and were instructing us to follow them up the ladder. So without hesitation, we climbed up to a building's rooftop, and I wasn't sure as to what we were supposed to be looking at. I could only presume it was the city that they were mentioning. One of the buildings had to be the safe place that Sissy and Pony were hinting at back at the carnival. The urge to confront that moldy potato hasn't been flushed down the toilet we call relief, however. That was still my top priority. I was not going to let him get away with creating that substance which killed my captain and my best friend. The two of them looked down and told us to stay close. The looks on their faces eventually perked up once they caught the sight of something.
"There it is! Our safe place!"
Pony shouted, pointing to the building that was fenced in by a wooden barrier. A gate was also blocking the entrance to that area. "The others will be pretty surprised that we found some stragglers," Sissy said, clearly looking at us. Both of them backed away from the railing and turned to us.
"Obviously, we have to find a way to get in,"
Pony said, his sword pointing down towards the locked gate. Sissy agreed. "Somehow, we need to get access to the gate and open it so that we can get to the safe place without any problems. Any ideas whatsoever?" Sissy asked, hoping that it wasn't just going to be her and Pony talking throughout this whole conversation. "No," I concurred, "but I do have a few ideas that we can try." Looking back at that just made me cringe. "But we have to head down this building and see if we can find anything."
"There are infected lurking in the city, though,"
Pony regretfully said.
"That's why we closed the gate."
So that the infected couldn't get in and harm any of our loved ones. I got slightly curious when Pony trailed off after saying that. One by one, we climbed down the ladder and entered the city that seemed just as abandoned as I thought it would be. Cars were rusty, piled in corners as if the infected had just lost their minds, and locked rooms that were way too familiar to me at this point. I decided that we split into duos. Me plus Zizzy and Grace plus Pony, to check out the two main buildings in the city. We went our temporary separate ways as Zizzy and I checked out what seemed to be a hotel, and went up the stairs and investigated the room for items. The rooms for items. The things we found were the blue, red, and green key card rooms, the gold key, and the green card. Since Zizzy was the one with a weapon, I grabbed the key card in one of the bedrooms as she stood guard as I opened it, only to find the orange key card and purple safe, which most likely led to the gun. Seeing that there was no use for the orange key card here, we agreed it was time to check out the other building to see if Grace and Pony had any luck finding anything. Getting out of the hotel was not easy, however. Pony was right about the infected residents still lurking around the area, and this one Zizzy was familiar with. The infected stood, holding a spear, but not grasping it firmly. Zizzy said that this elephant girl and her used to be best friends back in the day. She said they used to visit each other in the hotel and have sleepovers. God, I wish I could go back to those days with my friends. Even though she was in disbelief in seeing her long-term best friend infected, she took a breath and dragged my arm running past Ellie, which she said was the elephant's name. It was a nice name for a presumably pleasant friend. While running, as we weren't looking, we had a run-in with the others, shouting of the fact that we each saw an infected. Now, this was what confused me. Usually, every area where I specifically go had only had one infected being. I was not ready for the routine to become a 2-on-1. We were discussing the appearances of them. While we were discussing the appearances of them, they had heard us bickering and had surrounded us in that small time frame. Before any of us knew it, it was just the four of us back to back, two of us each facing the infected that we had encountered earlier. The infected were at a standstill, but so were we.
"What are we supposed to do now?"
Grace exclaimed, in fear of the two infected, an elephant and another pig. How many relatives does Georgie Piggy have that are infected? Grace, you don't need to worry. Pony tried assuring her. But I do agree, Zizzy. We need a plan. I don't suppose you have one? Well, I have the orange key card, I said, and Zizzy has the gold key, and I'm pretty sure that its use is in the other building, the one that you guys were in. Zizzy and I need to go to the other building, and I assume you're the same? That's, Pony said, that's actually right. Grace was able to find the blue key card, and its use was not in our building anywhere. I also have the plank on me, and I'm pretty sure that it needs to be used at the top of the other building. Alright then, Zizzy finally spoke. So what are you trying to say, Zizzy? I asked her. She looked at me, then back at Ellie. I'm saying, she began, we stay with our partner, and we run to the building we haven't checked out yet. Are you all with me on this? I'm only suggesting because you both said you have something that has to be used in the other building. Yeah, sure, Pony said, but with an afraid tone. But are you sure that this is a good idea? On my mark, Zizzy said. We all looked at her, awaiting a command, but then looked back at the infected that were both glaring at us. 1, 2, 3. Zizzy grabbed my arm. Pony grabbed Grace's, and we each ran in separate directions to check out the building we haven't yet. Ellie ran off to follow the others, and it seems like the kid's relative, presumably his grandmother, was now instructed to chase us down to what seemed to be Ellie's company? As a sign above the door read, Ellie Enterprises. We had closed the door on the senior pig, hoping they couldn't open doors, and briefly looked on the first floor if anything we had needed to be used. We were able to find the gold safe and open it up to reveal a carrot. It didn't feel of the essence currently, so I just left it in the safe until we actually needed it. Although, if the orange keycard store wasn't on this floor, it most likely had to be on the second one. Zizzy stood guard in case that Grandma actually got the door open, and I went upstairs to find a few more rooms, and the one that needed the orange card to open. Once unlocked, I was baffled by the fact that dynamite was inside the room. It led to the conclusion that I had to explode a certain door in order to progress, and finally catch a break in Pony and Zizzy's safe place. I got downstairs, told Zizzy the good news, and we exited the building the other way that the kid's grandmother wasn't on, and saw a barricaded room and a banner that read Grandmother Piggy's Poutine. I placed down the dynamite, my lighter in hand, and blew the door up to let us inside what used to be a restaurant, and a fire extinguisher was on the bench. We ran to the gate to put out the fire in front of it, as the others had done the same to take care of the wrench jig. The fire extinguisher still needs to be used on the rooftop, Grace said. And I feel the infected are restless when it comes to chasing someone down. We need to go up there, now, Pony added, before the infected find us again. Quickly now, Zizzy instructed, but stay quiet too. I'm sure the infected are fluent in hearing noise. Since I had the fire extinguisher, Pony told me to stay close, and also made Zizzy stand guard since she seems the most confident in fighting. We made it up the rooftop, and Pony took the lead to say that we had to cross the plank to put out that fire on the other rooftop. Grace said earlier, when they put the plank down, they saw the code behind the fire, which was why they had called us up. One by one, we walked across the plank, thinking it was sturdy enough to hold us all. But when it was Grace's time to go, she took a misstep, and the plank was moved. Then it fell about 40 feet down an alleyway. Before it fell, she was midway across it, but the aftermath was her hanging on the rails for dear life. We went to set out the fire and get her afterward, but her shouts were too much to ignore. Guys, don't leave me hanging here, she shouted, sounding as terrified as a fire when a bucket of water was placed next to it. She also sounded like she was crying. I don't want to die like this. Please. Alright, Polar, Zizzy, I'm gonna help Grace up, Pony instructed, and I have confidence that you are capable of getting the code. Sure thing, I said, the fire extinguisher in hand. Once Pony grabbed the confidence, he left us and went to go help Grace. Meanwhile, putting out the fire was my specialty, and it disappeared in the blink of an eye. The code was ours for the taking, and the infected were nowhere to be seen. We can't go back the way we came, Zizzy said, but it seemed that there's an opening here, leading down to Ellie Enterprises. That seems like our best bet. I'm with you, 100%, I said, trying to gain Zizzy's trust. But what about the others? Do you know for sure if they were successful? Right as I asked that, the cries from behind us seemed to fade away. There. Pony tried to comfort Grace. Are you okay now? She was still terrified, mainly because her life was on the line for that small time frame, but she managed to get a grip. Yeah, Grace replied. I'm okay now. They walked over to us wondering what our next step was. What are we doing now, sis? This might hurt, I said, but we're going to have to drop down there. It's our only way out. Grace backed away fearfully. Oh, come on, Grace, Pony said, as if he was relying on her to go with us. You survived hanging onto a building's railing. Can you not handle a mild drop down? No, I can! Grace tried to defend herself but stopped. She wasn't confident in this situation. Or herself, for that matter. I don't know anymore. I'm just scared. Pony seemed disappointed, but understood. He walked over to her and put his hand on her shoulders. Look, Grace, Pony said to her, even though we just met, I can tell that you aren't afraid of anything. They know that you can do this. I know that you can do this. You just have to trust yourself that you can do this. Thanks, Pony, Grace said, but can you not get so close? Pony realized what he was getting himself into and immediately backed away. He looked flustered. Right. Sorry, he apologized. You better be, she said. They both walked over to us and knelt down looking at the sinking floor of Ellie Enterprises. Now, how long have we been sitting here exactly? Zizzy asked me. Too long, I replied. Sorry about that. It's just, I have no whereabouts of them infected lurking around here, and I don't want to be jumped by them when we go down. Have you forgotten something? Zizzy asked. Pony and I have weapons. You must know something about self-defense, right? I guess, I said, being unsure. I don't think that being a fallen angel and having powers counts as self-defense. Then we should be fine, Pony said. The majority of us knows how to fight. We are sitting ducks, Grace said to everyone. Are we going to use the code or what? Then something came to mind. Zizzy still left that carrot in the safe downstairs. I went to get it. Wait, what? Okay, we hopped down, then walked downstairs. Then something came to mind. Zizzy still left that carrot in the safe downstairs. I went to get it. When I got back upstairs, Pony started to drool his head off. Is that a carrot? He asked. Do you want it? I asked back. He looked desperate. The guy probably hasn't eaten something in days. Please, he begged. Give it to me. Zizzy rolled her eyes. Nah, I said, teasing him. Open the gate first. He looked like a baby. Fine, he agreed. But I want that once it's good to enter. Agreed, I said. Holding on to the carrot, the four of us walked to the gate with no infected in sight and used the code. You have to give me the carrot, Pony said. There's a plank blocking the button to actually open the gate. I sighed in annoyance. Fine, I said, giving it to him. He ate it in 3 seconds, went crazy, and chopped the plank off in half. After he calmed down, he pressed the button and the gate opened. Come on in, slowpokes, Zizzy said, as her and Pony already walked past the gate and were waiting for us. Mind closing the gate on your way in? We don't want to risk the infected finding their way into our base. Grace went in first to give herself further protection, and I followed close behind with my hands on the gate and dragged it closed. After making sure that it was locked and nobody could open it, I walked over to the others, and they were waiting for me to be finished with business. Before I knew it, they looked intimidated just from looking my way, and they were pointing their weapons towards the direction I was in. The infected were knocking at our door, or should I say gate, but most likely they weren't smart enough to figure out the way in. Completely ignoring that, I walked up to them, and it seemed that Zizzy wanted to get to know us more. So, about the both of you, she started. What exactly were you doing before all of this? Well, like every other being, we were living our normal lives, I suppose, I said. Although, I was a detective who worked with police officers. The final task they gave me was to run around all of Lucella looking for a missing kid. I am only 14, Grace said, so technically I'm not in the workforce yet. But what about you two? From the first appearance, Pony and Zizzy were either my age, or maybe a bit older. I was trying to become an optometrist, Pony shared, just like my father. I wanted to help the nearsighted, considering I am one myself. And I was a fencing coach, Sissy said with confidence. I was even able to teach my own little sisters. I am so relieved that they're safe here with me. Pony's expression slightly dropped. Yeah, he said, but trailed off. He must have lost his whole family like that pig I've been going after for months. Although, I've been meaning to ask you both something, Sissy concurred. What is it? I asked, curious. Sissy turned to the two of us. First seen you after you opened that door? Sissy started. When and how did you even end up at the carnival? I think I heard you mention Mr. P. Everyone has their reasons to be after something, I said, trying to sound wise. And my reason is pretty serious. How so? She asked me. Mr. P, believe it or not, is actually the one who's created this whole infection, I said. He's been handing out potions to people. Once they drink it, in probably a day's time, they become infected. I've experienced it firsthand with a few deceased friends of mine. Wow, I'm so sorry for your losses, Pony said, trying to comfort me. So you know why I'm on the hunt for that potato, I said. I need to stop him from infecting the whole world. You should at least stay with us for a bit, Sissy offered. We can also lend a hand in finding him. I'd really appreciate that, I said, feeling assured. Sorry, I lost where I am for a second. Thank you. Grace could feel the heartfelt moment I was sharing with Zizzy, but something else drew her attention away. Pony noticed her suspicions. What's on your mind, Grace? He asked. It's nothing, she replied. I think. She didn't let the feeling go, though. For a little bit, we just stood there, nothing else being heard until I heard a thud coming from the left of us. What was that? Pony asked, scared. I think someone's watching us, I uneasily said. I'll go check it out. We're going with you, Zizzy said, pointing to herself and Grace. Grace looked at her and agreed. All right then, Pony said. I'll report to the others. We all agreed to current terms, and the girls were heading off to have a little adventure. Stay safe. I took the lead, even though I had no idea who we were chasing. I didn't get a clear glimpse of the figure, but their appearance seemed a little young. Maybe a few years younger than Grace. Whoever this was, they were fast, and we almost lost track of them, but a few slip-ups were made and we were able to catch up to them. I wasn't sure where this kid was going to lead us, but something about our surroundings seemed slightly familiar. When we got to the end of the unnecessarily long alleyway, there was a parking lot next to a building that the kid ran into. It meant that there was only one thing to do now.